with another reaction. And today's something special, y'all. It's about kids getting their butt whooped. Now, from my generation, that was an everyday thing. Today, it's a little different. All right, people are complaining. In this video, it's the kid talking about his experiences. And let's get straight to it.
I don't love my parents anymore. It's something that most people can't imagine saying, even if it were true. Yet a study in 1997 states that 7% of children cut ties with their mom and 27% of children cut ties with their dad after they become an adult. But
wait.
What
ages are we talking? All right, are we talking millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alphas are now adults yet? Boomers. What came before me? Boomers 1, 2, I forgot the other generation. But I think the generation could be a different factor here. He looks like he's about 21 at most. Yeah.
To always do the right thing for their children, right? Parents are always supportive.
I don't know.
They never hurt us in any way. They never judge us, and they accept us for who we are. And above all,
parents are humans too. I never looked at my mother or father as a perfect human being, all right? Everyone can have mistakes. Now, what my parents did with me, they disciplined me. Discipline does not actually mean whooping you every single time, all right? You can have conversations, they can take stuff from you, but they're gonna beat your ass when they had to, well, back in my time. So I'm curious to see where he's going.
They never, ever use their authority as a parental figure to guilt trip us into getting what they want.
Of course, they're parents.
Right. So anyways, I got bored and I figured it'd be cool to look up the top 5 worst parenting styles that ruin future adult parent relationships. And I thought it'd be cool to look up 5 different real life experiences that I found on the internet to explain each one. Now, without further ado, let's look up the 5 worst parenting styles that ruined us as kids. Now, let's head to Reddit for our first story. I changed your diapers and saw everything. Now you're hiding your body from me. What is this obsession they have with our body? I was changing my shirt and my mom was in a room, so I turned around and she said that phrase referring to the title. And I said, I'm an adult and it's my body. I can hide if I want.
Okay, an adult. I was about to say, what age are we talking about? So as an adult, well, that's kind of weird. Your mom shouldn't be trying to look at you as an adult.
You're disgusting. She said, you're so disrespectful. Calling your own mother disgusting. And I said, oh, I have to respect you, but you don't have to respect me. You've called me a lot worse in my life. And of course she said, like what? I swear they either have selective memory or they generally play dumb or they really don't think they ever did anything wrong. They think they were always right somehow. Now this is important. Maybe this is why I have so many body image issues, because it was never my body. It was ours. Personal story time. I relate to the story a little bit.
What? Yo. Our body? When I got older, my mother did not want to see anything got to do with me. I didn't want to see anything that has to do with her. She didn't want to. Now, sometimes you might run into a bathroom without somebody locking the door in a room. You know, kids, they do whatever they do in the bedroom. So, hey, that can accidentally happen. But our body?
I live in a very physical, touchy-based household, and I have no problem with that. That just isn't personally my love language. And I remember certain times growing up, my mom would hug me randomly, touch me randomly, and for XYZ reason. She didn't really need one. And I remember getting a little bit frustrated, not for any reason particular. I just didn't want to get touched. One day I made the mistake of saying that to her, and then she responded with, "You are my child. I can touch you whenever I want to." And as a kid, you accepted that. But in the back of my mind, I would just think to myself, could you though? I can't have some boundaries? And that right there leads to my first point. Number 1, parents who view their children as property that they own. Obviously, parents have a moral and legal responsibility to their own children. But to act like your children have no right to their own bodies or shouldn't have any type of boundaries is insane. And I've been researching what the psychological or medical term for this may be, but everything I've looked up so far seems to stem back to narcissism. I mean, I get it. You've raised us since we were infants, and you got used to us needing you for everything. Of course, I'd imagine that to be a hard transition to a child that doesn't want you involved as much. But narcissism is different. For a narcissistic parent, your body is not yours. They think just because they fed you and gave you a place to sleep, that's also a reason to not give you boundaries.
Okay. Back in my day, this is how this worked. Okay, you in my house, you're gonna obey my rules, and everything goes as I say. Now, you can leave, if you want to be an adult, and everything else can be on your terms. But in this house, it works by my rules. That's how parenting worked. Now, as far as your parent touching you and your body, I've never seen it. All right. At what age do you start showering by yourself? Usually by that time, your parents are kind of done trying to see what you got working. All right. Still weird.
their mind, you're merely an extension of who they are, and how dare you try to do anything different than what they tell you to do. Now, if you're a child of a narcissistic parent who treated you more like property than an actual human being, how have you been affected by this growing up, and how can you cope with it now as an adult? You know, funny enough, it's only been as recent as 2018 where there's actually been a formal study on the effects that narcissistic parenting has on the mental health of children. Physical or sexual abuse have a very obvious effect on the mental health of a child. However, research has found that the children of narcissistic parents typically have a significantly higher rate of depression and low self-esteem than those who don't have a narcissistic parent. Research has also shown that trauma has an adverse effect on the reward centers of the brain, making people more susceptible receptive to substance abuse and other addictions. If your mom or dad was a narcissist, chances are you suffer from long-term anxiety, bipolar disorder, OCD, and PTSD. You grew up feeling responsible for your parents' needs, and you've developed a people-pleasing tendency that translates to your other adult relationships in your life. And as an extension, you've probably developed codependency issues, putting other people's needs above your own. And chances are you're also struggling with what a healthy romantic relationship looks like. And there's a good chance you're probably dating a narcissist yourself. And what psychology can teach us about coping from having a narcissistic parent is, number one, acknowledge the abuse that happened. Acknowledgement of the abuse is the first step to giving power.
To me, first step, let's figure out what abuse actually is. All right? Disciplining your child versus abusing your child. Two different factors, according to me. So let's get that out the way, because people automatically think just you got smacked on your butt, that means you got abused. What you think?
Or back to the person that was victimized. Number two, set firm boundaries. Unfortunately, most of us don't have the financial means to drop everything and leave our parents' home, especially if we're too young to actually do so. But psychology suggests really honing down and setting clear, very distinctive boundaries between you and your narcissistic parent. The best way to do that is number three, seek professional help. There is no amount of willpower to help you out better than walking the street.
Look, be careful about that. Some parents are really going to beat your ass for trying to get help from them disciplining you, okay? All right, just saying, be careful.
With an actual human being licensed to help in that particular area. And that's why I'm happy to announce today's sponsor, Better. Nah, I don't have a sponsor. Sorry, that was a joke.
Yeah, you got work on his jokes.
Well, anyways, let's head to the next story. Figured it'd be better for me to stand up for this one.
Blocks are not working anymore.
Make mornings crust easy.
This year, this guy will actually get a good night's sleep, despite the odds.
Okay. Get out of here.
My mother consistently uses the line, "I gave up my life for you," or "If it weren't for me giving up everything, you wouldn't even be where you are," or "I'm your mother." It seems every time we try to have a normal conversation, she spews some stuff that makes me feel like she wants me to feel some kind of guilt in my life. I just don't get why she wants me to feel guilty for all the things she did for me and my brother. Now, these things weren't extraordinary. These are things like feeding us, buying clothes from Goodwill. She did a good job, and I'm not saying she isn't, but she wants me to bow down to her. Last night she texted.
Okay, my parents have never asked for any gratitude for what they did, feeding you, protecting you, shelter. What else do parents do? Love you, okay? They never made you feel guilty of what they're supposed to do. This is different.
Texted me after getting into an argument, which is every time we talk, and she told me I'm the sorriest person that ever lived, and I asked why, and I told her to pray about it.
Did you pray today?
She went on a rampage and blew up at me, told me I've changed, I'm acting different, and she doesn't even know me anymore. I really don't know how much more I could take. By the way, this has been going on my entire life, so it's not like it just happened. She always makes me feel guilty for everything. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack here. And of course, with stories like this, you never get the full picture. You only get what you see from the child's perspective. But that does lead perfectly to my second point. Now, that's weird. I'm not expecting anyone. Who could that be? Oh, yeah. It's number two, parents who use their responsibility as parents to guilt trip their children. Coming from someone who is not a parent, I acknowledge that the role of a parent is still one of the most difficult jobs in the world. Feeding, giving shelter, and providing an overall great life for another human being for at least 18 years is a daunting task, to say the least. In my opinion, even if you hate your parents, if you can admit that they've otherwise done a good job at putting food on the table and providing your necessities, as a child, we should 100% be grateful. But as a parent, taking what you're you're obligated to do as a provider, and throwing it back in your kids' faces to guilt trip us to get your way should be a criminal offense. Whether you plan for it or not, giving birth was a decision that you followed through with, and your kids had zero say in the matter. Guilt tripping your kids because you did your job as a mom was like punishing someone else for a decision that you made. You don't walk into a dog kennel, buy a dog, and then tell that dog how grateful they should be that you feed and take care of them. None of that was up for negotiation when you made the purchase, Claudia. That's what you're supposed to do.
Well, I don't know about pets. Sometimes you do save a pet. That's called saving a pet. But, sometimes they do, if you don't save them.
Why do parents guilt trip, and how has that affected us as kids? Everything I've researched thus far points back to it just simply being easier for them to get what they want out of us. Psychologically, as children, we're prone to want to please our parents. And I found something really cool online that spoke about the difference between buying allegiance and being respected. Some parents fear that earning respect the right way can either take too long or may not work at all. So they choose the easier path of buying our allegiance by constantly reminding us of all the good they've done for us as a parent. As a kid, they did this to us to convince us to clean our room. As an adult, they do this to convince us to do favors we otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable doing. And thanks to that, similar to being a child of a narcissist, being a child of a guilt-tripping parent can also lead to long-term anxiety, long-term depression, and paranoia. How can we solve it? That perfectly leads to number
pictures in the back.
That was weird. Did your parents ever compare you to other kids? How did it make you feel? Constantly. A real?
Of course parents do that naturally, because let's say, for example, you're in an AB honor roll and one child makes it and the other one doesn't, or your friend makes it and you don't. The parent feels to, give you a little push in the back of your butt. Like, come on now. How come they're better than you? You can do better, right? Is that bad? What y'all think?
Ballerina is so skinny. You need to eat less. Look at that girl. She's already in the Olympics. And look at you. What are you even doing? My friend's son is playing piano on the radio. Why are you kidding around? Now I have zero confidence. Honestly, my mom's words made me want to kill myself every day. I never did any of my hobbies for anyone else, but she'd constantly tell me I'd never be good enough. I suspect she did so I would focus on school and become the doctor she wanted me to be. Now that story was a perfect example of number 3, parents who compare us to other kids. Now out of all the worst parenting styles on this list.
Now, I would say, thinking of this, it's only natural that a parent will do that. All right. They coming around, they see other kids are doing better. They are smarter. They are more disciplined. They want their child to do well in life. So I can only see it as a parent that you will want that child to do better, right? So you are going to compare him. Now, how you do it, that's the difference. What he's talking about is different. Telling him to get skinnier and do this and do that, that's different. My parent motivated you. All right, like, you want to play basketball? You want to be as good as him? You got cut? You want to get better? Let me show you how to do it. That's the way I grew up. This is different.
This one was the most annoying to me, mainly because they think by doing this, we're automatically going to be motivated to be like the person they're comparing us to. Oh.
Well, except getting grades. You're going to get better grades, whether you're lacking out. Oh, that's your ass.
Well, this girl's already in the Olympics. What are you doing? You know what, Mom? Yeah, you're right. Let me get right on that. I remember the time I broke the mouse to the family computer, and as a knee-jerk reaction, my mom said, "How could you be so careless? So-and-so's son had his computer for 10 years, and he never broke it." And I just remember thinking, okay, what am I supposed to do with this information? And guess what? I still felt like crap afterwards. Comparison is the fastest way to break trust with your children and make them.
Okay, this is where everything is starting to go left. Is this called being soft? Like, if you are a parent and you're just mad at that moment and that child holds that one little thing for 30 years, like, come on, man, she didn't beat you. Oh, it was your mom, right? She didn't beat you. She didn't do anything. She just told you another child did this and never broke. And the other child had the computer for whatever how many years it was and never broke. And you are still holding on to that one single point. Now, quite honestly, I have heard way worse than that.
Them feel as if they're incapable of measuring up. By comparing us to another person's kid, you're indirectly saying that that person's kid is a kid that you actually want. The long-term effects of this can lead us down 2 roads: severe people-pleasing or a continuous anxious feeling of never being good enough. To cope with this, and also establish your own standard of excellence or identify your own measuring stick. For example, your parents' definition of success could be you getting into the Olympics. But if you made clear to yourself that your definition of success is simply being the best ballerina in your town, it doesn't matter what your parents think, and it'll start losing its effect on you. Now, on to the next story. God, I hope that transition was cool. My mom's trophy child. I think I can finally put my experience into words after years of internal incoherent screaming that went inside my head. I've come to terms with the fact that my mom uses me as her trophy child. If I got good grades or did something impressive, she showered me with love. My daughter is so smart. I am so happy. You are so talented. But the minute I failed, it was always, you are worth nothing. Why don't you become a maid? Because with your lack of skills, you won't get anywhere in life. Love was so conditional that I felt pressure to always perform and be 100%. Even now, if I'm sick, she will yell.
Very good words. Love was conditional. As a parent, love is unconditional. No matter what, they're there for you. All right? So mark that.
Yell at me for being sick like it's my fault and then tell me to call the doctor because I need to study for exams and I can't be sick. For her, none of my friends are good enough. No one is good enough if they aren't performing as per her standards. Honestly, I'm done with this cesspool of a family. I just want unconditional love for once, man. I'm so tired of always trying to be the best. I really wish I was enough as a daughter to her. The idea of her bragging about me makes me want to throw up. I feel like I'm a resume she built. Number 4, parents who treat their kids like the trophy child. Trophy child syndrome is in some ways the exact opposite of parents who compare you to other kids. If you were the trophy child, chances are you were the example that our parents chose to be more like you. And we hate you for it. But that doesn't mean you didn't get your fair share of punishment either. Trophy child syndrome, or golden child syndrome, is when a parent highly favors a child over others because they are seen as a symbol of that parent's success. You were the kid, if you got an A in class, not only did your parents feel the need to show it off to your siblings, but your aunts had to know, your neighbors had to know, your classmates had to know, your classmates' parents had to know, your classmates' parents' dogs had to know, your mailman. That unfortunately means that the pressure they have to bear being the trophy child is tremendous. Like the woman in the Reddit story, you were in your mother's good graces so as long as you lived up to her expectations. But the second you did something that was less than worthy enough to brag to the entire town about, you might as well have been scum. And this is another form of narcissistic parenting. That means your parents view you as an object and they try to live their unmet successes and unfulfilled dreams vicariously through you. And because of that, not only are you more likely to be unliked by your other siblings and peers, no one likes to be compared to, but the long-term effects of that much pressure on a kid can lead to an unhealthy need to achieve, no real sense of self, people pleasing, taking on the role of the adult way too soon, and the fear of failure. Now, what are some ways you can cope with this? Research suggests having the conversations as an adult with your parent and set strict boundaries within the family unit. Maintain support systems that promote the messiness of authenticity.
Well, I don't know what type of parents he had. When I was a kid, there was no having conversation as an adult. It will be an adult to a child. All right. You can say whatever you want to say, but you're going to do what they tell you to do because they're the adult and you're the child. There's no even, but until you grow up, that is.
And imperfection, and practice mindfulness and meditation whenever the anxiety arises. Oh, and of course, now it's time for the final. Whooping your kids is abuse and is not how a kid should be brought up. If your kid has accidentally broken a window, take away their phone, cut down their TV privileges, but don't start hitting them with a belt. Kids should grow up doing things wrong and feeling genuine regret and remorse and not be terrified of it if they're getting whooped or not. So many people grow up with parents hitting them with spoons or hitting them with sandals and thinking it's completely normal. This shouldn't be considered as a normal parenting strategy. It should be considered as abuse. A parent can't see a headline like, "Man who abused wife and kids dies in prison," and can't go, "That guy should rot in hell," and then start whipping little Timmy with his belt for accidentally breaking his mother's vase. This is a tricky one, and I'm not gonna stand here and tell other people how they should punish their kids. So I'll sit down. Growing up in a Caribbean household meant that my skin and my mom's belt became well acquainted one too many times. Now, I'm not here to argue whether whooping your child in general is right or wrong, but if your first reflex after your child makes a mistake is to grab a belt, then that is definitely wrong, and here's why.
I agree. If that's the only solution you have each and every time a child does anything wrong, we are getting to the boundaries now of abuse. Now, if that's the last resort,
As a parent, why do you want to discipline your child? It's to prevent wrong or immoral actions from happening again in the future. From a psychological perspective, punishment should be seen as a way to teach kids right from wrong, what can be tolerated and what will not be tolerated, ultimately with the goal of helping them become a better socially acceptable adult. Which is why I also don't agree with parents who are afraid to punish their kids at all. It's as if they care more about being liked as a friend than being respected as a parent. And those
Somebody finally said it. I completely agree. We are living in times where if you punish your child in any way, you are considered bad. So some parents are choosing, just let the kids be free. They gonna figure it out on their own, and we end up having badass little kids. You just want to beat their ass. You been to the grocery store with those little bad kids walking around. You just like, That's not somebody we want in society when they grow up.
kids almost always grow to be socially unbearable adults because they literally received zero negative reinforcement for bad behavior. Correct. If we can agree that the ultimate goal of punishment is to correct behavior, can we also agree to match the punishment with the crime?
All right, guys, let's play a quick game of Match the Punishment.
Okay, let me see. Where we going? I like
Does
this.
breaking a vase on accident match the punishment of physical abuse?
No, come on.
Even if it was $1,000?
Doesn't
Wow.
matter whatsoever.
Does getting a bad grade on a report card match the punishment?
Whoa. There's factors to these. All right. If you got an F because you've been messing around in school and this is not your first F, and your parents specifically told you, I'm going to beat your behind if you do not stop playing around, and you're skipping class, you're missing school, you're being bad in class, what do you think is going to happen? See, there's variables to this. It's not that easy. If you got an F, there's usually steps to where you took to where you got to the F. So let's see what we say.
Physical abuse? No! Even if you got an F? No! So you mean to tell me beating a child with a belt actually doesn't help them with their grades?
Oh, it
wow,
helped me.
No way. Does winning an argument against a parent
I don't know about you guys, but it sure as hell helped me. If you failed and you got a beating, trust me, you're not going to forget that beating. Next time, you're going to get that A, B, definitely not the C.
match the punishment of physical abuse? No! Even if the parent's ego is hurt? No! Wow, how insightful. Thanks for playing, guys.
Again, I'm not a parent, but I can see that there may be some extreme examples where physical punishment may be the best way to get the message through to a kid. I'm not gonna list it here, but here's a good rule of thumb. If you wouldn't do it to an adult, don't do it to a kid. Why do some parents resort to physical punishment as their first and only discipline tactic? Well, truthfully, it's the same as parents who guilt trip. It's usually the easiest and fastest way to stop unwanted behavior from a child. But unfortunately, like most things in life, anything that starts off fast and easy usually long-term leads to worse results. Research suggests that the long-term effects of children who've been regularly physically punished tend to exhibit high hormonal reactivity to stress or overreacting to stress, higher likelihood of developing antisocial behavior or abnormal aggression and violence in future relationships, and a literal change in brain structure. And they are also more likely to consider suicide. And out of all the worst parenting styles that we've discussed so far in this video, this would be the leading cause of what destroys a future relationship between an adult child and their parent. If you were a child who experienced constant physical punishment growing up, how can you cope with it now as an adult? It really depends. If you believe you've had otherwise great parents, research suggests learning to separate the action of the spanking from the person that you love. Research also suggests a concept known as reparenting, where we as adults give our inner child the love and compassion that we lacked in our childhood and prove to ourselves that we are worthy of love and support despite the circumstances. And we all know the one source of support that will benefit us the most.
Everything is about seeking
All right,
professional
hold
help.
up. Let me just get over here. Hey guys, I just want to give a special thank you to everyone.
All right, shout out to him. Shout out to, let's get his name right. Shout out to Tyreek Simmons, man. Great video, very informative. I liked how you balanced it both. You didn't just sway on one side and forgot the other. Okay, now it's time for me to get mine in before, we finish this video. Now, I can tell you one thing. I have a girl who is a teacher, and one thing she has always informed me is she can tell the parents that discipline their child and the parents that do not discipline their child. And these are little kids, and she can easily tell. The ones who get disciplined at home, she gives them something to do or tells them go over there, sit down, whatever teachers do at that age. The parents that whoop their child or discipline them, whatever you want to use, listen. The parents that don't, those kids don't listen. Those are badass little kids. They're running around not doing anything. Talking back, throwing things around, skipping class, walking around. Little kids, they're doing that. They're just getting out, walking, and doing whatever they want to do. So let's think about that fact. All right. Number 2. Now, I came from a family background of whooping ass. I came from an African background, so they do not play that. Now, I've had this conversation with my brother, and I've asked him, have you ever felt that we got abused as kids? My brother was like, what? Hell no, we were badass kids. We needed to get our butt whooped. So, worked out for them. I've asked my cousins, I've asked my friends. All of us used to get whooped as kids, and I've never met anyone that got abused. Now, other people I've had conversations with, they got abused. Like if you broke a vase, they got beat. We never had that. Broke a vase, they just tell you to clean it up. All right? Tell me what you think about it. I thought this was a very interesting video. Shout out to Tyreek. See you on the next one, and I'm out.